Let's get to the bad now of the NBA. The first few days
time
of
to
the
shine,
season.
baby.
It's Kyle's time to shine. Criticism. Let's begin with the Milwaukee Bucks at 1-2. Although they did take down the Philadelphia 76ers, they haven't looked good thereafter. And they lost to the Brooklyn Nets, who are not a very good basketball team. And we'll talk about a player from them.
And
but
look,
Bucks are 1-2.
There's talks that Chris Middleton is starting to ramp up, playing a little 3-on-3. I think I saw
the ramp's here.
They have a ramp as well.
Not only
many teams have a ramp. The problem is offense is not their problem. Shocking, I know, but they are a bottom 5-ish, bottom 6-ish team defensively. I don't really know. I think Chris Middleton is going to rectify that. I don't think they have an easy solution to that. Look, they're supremely talented still. Their two-man game is really talented. I think Dame has looked better so far this year than he did last year, right. Whether that's just getting a little healthy, whether that's the headspace he's in or just continuity. I think he looks better. Because of that, they might be slightly more dangerous, but they have so many fundamental flaws on that team defensively outside of Brook Lopez and Giannis when he's engaged, which, as we saw in the opener, isn't all the time on that end. It's not a great start for him. It's not super encouraging.
Would you criticize Pop for a 1-2 start?
I would not criticize Pop for that, no. Only Doc. Doc is so persecuted.
Yeah, look, some of this for me is just
careful.
I'm not a believer in the Bucks on a macro level right now. Dame looking decent in the first few games has at least raised my eyebrow a little bit, right? Because I came in thinking, not that he's washed, but that he's closer to washed than he is like prime Dame Lillard. Certainly the Sixers made him look like prime Dame Lillard for half of that game on opening night. But to lose to a Bulls team that just has absolutely no idea what it's doing, and then lose last night to Brooklyn in a game that frankly was not close for a lot of that game, I don't know. I don't believe in them whatsoever. I guess what's the optimist case here? Like Dame right now is shooting 32% from three after one of his worst shooting seasons ever last season. The burst clearly is not there. I think it was easier to kind of paper over that against the Sixers on opening night where they didn't have Joel, they didn't have PG. So you have some more open driving lanes and you can get to the rim a little bit easier and see some shots go down. But I think that's kind of the problem, right? Is like Dame has lost enough athletically that he's not a reliable, like the pull-up threat that he was a few years ago, where if he got within 30 feet and you gave him space, that's like, oh, I believe that shot's going in. If that's not the case anymore, and he can't compensate for that with, a slashing game. Like that's never really been the peak of his game, but he at least had that in his bag a couple of seasons ago, had the burst to get by people consistently. Not really seeing that yet. So that's going to be, how does Doc Rivers manage his way out of that situation? Great question. We'll figure it out on the fly, I suppose.
Yeah, so their win is against the Sixers. Sixers did not look good in the opener, and partly because of them. But since then, the Bulls and the Nets, not so good. Not so good losing to that basketball team. The other, we saw them last night. The Sixers got a W against them in overtime. They needed that extra work to do so, and that is the Indiana Pacers. And I saw them for 2 straight games, the New York Knicks and then the Philadelphia 76ers.
Trader Devon up in New York,
They have problems. They don't look good. And I was wondering.
That's Traitor, not Trader, because if he was Trader Devon, he would be here right now.
That's true.
Fair. Yeah, that's a good point. But I just nothing I can do about that. I tried, everybody. I really did. They beat the Pistons on opening night, 115-109. But that was a close game.
round of applause.
Victory tour, here we come.
The Pistons should have won that basketball game, and they might be 0-3 right now. The Pacers, though, they have not been a very good basketball team. And watching them defensively, while I pointed out individual defensive players of Nembhard and Nesmith running around with Tyrese Maxey trying to make things difficult for him, you guys pointed out exactly. The defense overall is not very good. It's not there. It's not. That's why they like to run. They like to have the pace that they do. First 3 games, though, this first week, not so good.
I don't think the defense was the problem in Maxey getting the 45, right? Like I think some of that was just he had an unbelievable half, and sometimes that happens. You tip your cap and say great. The defensive problems were in the first half. You're getting diced by Eric Gordon and Caleb Martin, which all due respect to those guys, they should not be able to beat the first two layers of defense consistently for an entire half. The only reason that it was a game so that Maxey could then, lead them to a win eventually was because Indiana was so bad on defense in the first half that they're letting role players just get to the rim unencumbered. So that has been and remains the biggest concern. They're also not going to win if Tyrese Halliburton is scoring 12 points a game. Like that is not a sustainable way to win.
1 for 16
right?
from 3 before the Sixers game.
Yeah, and one of those threes that he hit in that game was that insane end of game or end of regulation, I should say, buzzer beater that sent it to overtime.
I think Kelly might have fouled him too. They got real lucky.
I think he did foul him and they got lucky. But the point is, he's going to shoot better at some point, but I still have my concerns about Halliburton as like a number one option type of guy. In spite of what we saw at times in the playoffs last year, I am not a believer in him as your main guy on offense.
Yeah, look at that. Little Indiana. Take them down, Indiana. They're not fun to watch. Last year they were a lot more fun to watch last season. This time.
Yeah, when the best player shoots 31% from the field, nobody's gonna be fun to watch.
Nah, it's not
we
fun
experienced that for 2.5 games.
Yeah, it's not fun to watch.
We all silly like the mayor.